Ah, you made it here, finally. Come in, come in. Don't stand out there in the cold night air. The forest can be a lonely place after dark, and the rain, well, it tends to make the world feel a little heavier on the shoulders. Here, step inside. Let the door close behind you. Listen to how the cabin settles, that low, wooden sigh, as if it's been waiting for someone to share its warmth. Sit anywhere you'd like. The chair near the stove is the warmest, but the little bench under the window has the best view of the trees swaying softly in the wind. Don't worry about your wet coat. Hang it by the door. The fire will dry it before long. You know, not many people wander into this part of the forest at night, and even fewer find this cabin, not because it's hidden, but because most people never think to look for quiet places. But you, something about you tells me you needed quietness more than most tonight. Look around. The cabin is small, yes, but it holds years of stories in its walls and shelves. Every creak in the floorboards, every knot in the wood, every fading map pinned to the wall, all of them know things about loneliness and rest, and the weight people carry when no one is around to see. Ah, hear that? The rain has begun to fall a little harder. Not fast enough to frighten, just enough to hush the world outside into a gentle, steady rhythm. You're safe here. No animals wander too close to the cabin. No storm can enter past these thick wooden beams. And no burden is too heavy to be set down beside this old fire. Come closer to the warmth. Let me pour you something hot. Tea if you like, or just warm water with a bit of herbs from the shelf. People think cabin keepers live lonely lives, but they don't realize how many wandering hearts find their way to this place. Hearts tired from things they never speak of, things they pack quietly in their chests until the weight becomes too much. I'm not here to pry. You don't have to tell me anything. Just rest. Just breathe. The forest has a way of knowing when a person needs stillness, and tonight it guided you here. Sit, my friend. Relax your hands. Let your shoulders soften. Listen. That sound, the soft pattering of rain on the roof, the crackling of the fire, the wind brushing through pine branches. It's not just noise. It's the forest welcoming you. You've traveled far today, haven't you? Not just in distance, but in thought. I see it in your eyes. That quiet exhaustion that doesn't come from walking or weather, but from feeling. Most who find this cabin aren't tired in their feet. They're tired in their spirit. Here, hold the cup with both hands. Feel the warmth seep into your palms. Let it travel slowly through you, down your arms, across your chest, into the quiet spaces inside you that have been cold for too long. This is a night for unwinding, a night for remembering that you are still human, still soft, still allowed to rest. The forest understands. It never rushes. A tree grows when it grows. A stream flows where it flows. And the night wraps gently around anyone who needs a place to settle. You know, I wasn't always the keeper of this cabin. There was a time I lived in the noise and the speed of cities, chasing things that in the end did nothing but tire me. It took me many years to learn that peace is not something you find. It's something you allow. And tonight, you allow it too, just by being here. The fire will keep burning, the rain will keep falling, and I will keep speaking as slowly as the night allows, so that your breath can follow and your mind can soften into something gentler than silence. Stay as long as you need. This cabin has no schedule, no expectations, no hurry. You can let the world wait for you, just for tonight. Now that the fire's stronger and your breathing has settled into something calmer, I think it's time I tell you a little more about how I ended up here, in this cabin, in this forest, in this life of quiet corners and warm lamplight. You see, I wasn't always the kind of person who knew how to be still. There was a time, a whole chapter of my life, where I mistook movement for progress, noise for purpose, and exhaustion for achievement. Back then, the world kept tugging at my sleeve, pulling me from one responsibility to the next, from one expectation to another, until I couldn't tell anymore whether I was living my own life or someone else's version of it. I used to wake up with a heaviness in my chest, the kind that sits quietly at first, but grows heavier each time you pretend you don't feel it. One night, after another long day that stretched longer than my strength, I walked outside just to get a moment of air. The city lights were bright, almost too bright, as if they were trying to keep me awake even when my spirit longed for rest. And as I stood there, looking up at a sky drowned in neon and noise, I realized something quietly painful. I had forgotten how to hear myself. So I walked, not far at first, just enough to escape the buildings and the restless chatter of people who were all pretending to be fine. But that walk, oh, that simple walk, became longer with each passing night, as if something in the distance was calling me toward a life I had been too busy to imagine. And one evening, I kept walking without turning back. The city dimmed behind me. The roads grew quieter. The trees grew taller. And the stars finally found their courage to appear again in the sky. I walked until the night became a companion, until the silence became a language, and until the forest opened its arms with the gentle patience of something ancient and endlessly forgiving. And then, after hours of wandering, I saw a faint glow between the pines. A cabin, old, weathered, warm. It wasn't this cabin, not yet, but it was the first place that made me feel like I had found a pause. I stayed there that night. Only for the night, I thought, but that night turned into a week, and the week turned into a month, and the month became the beginning of a life I never expected. A life where the loudest sound was wind brushing through pine needles, and the only schedule was sunrise and sunset. I learned the forest's rhythm, slow, patient, unconcerned with anything that didn't grow naturally. I learned that trees take their time, that rivers don't rush unless they must, that even the smallest creatures move with intention rather than haste. And I, for the first time in many years, began to move like that too. But you know what surprised me most? It wasn't the peace, it wasn't the quiet, it wasn't even the solitude, though solitude did teach me how to sit with my own thoughts without fear. No, what surprised me most was how people began to find me. Hikers, travelers, people who got lost on trails because their maps didn't match their intentions. Some came tired, some came heartbroken, some came empty, some came full of questions they could not speak out loud. And without planning to, I began to take care of them, offering a place to sit, a warm drink, a quiet night, and a moment to breathe. That first cabin became a refuge, not because it was grand, not because it was beautiful, but because it was still. And stillness, my friend, is something the world rarely gives. Over time, people began to return. They brought stories with them, stories of confusion, stories of hope, stories of grief that clung to their bones like frost. And I learned something important. Everyone is carrying something they don't know how to set down. Some people need noise to drown it out. Some people need movement to outrun it. But some just need a quiet place where no one asks them to be anything but human. That's why I became the cabin keeper, not because I chose this life, but because this life chose me. And look at you now, arriving on a rainy night like countless others before you. There is something in your eyes, something familiar, a tiredness shaped not by distance, but by feeling. You don't have to hide it, not here. This cabin has held heavier stories, and lighter ones too. Whatever you're carrying, you can let it rest for a while on the floor beside you, the way tired travelers have done for decades before you. The fire doesn't judge. The forest doesn't hurry. And I have all the time in the world. Stay. Listen to the rain. Let me keep telling you a story until your breath grows steady and your thoughts grow soft like moss on an old stone. Good. Settle yourself now. The fire's grown quiet, and the rain has softened into a thin silver whisper against the roof. This is the perfect time to tell you about someone who once found their way to this cabin on a night very much like this one. They arrived years ago, before the shelves were full, before the walls were lined with maps and carvings and stories. Back when the cabin was still learning how to be a home. It was late, very late. The kind of late where even the forest seems to hold its breath, unsure whether to sleep or listen. And then, out of the darkness, I heard footsteps. Not hurried, not frightened, just tired. When the figure appeared in the doorway, they looked worn in a way that had nothing to do with weather. Their clothes were dry, their boots barely muddy. But their eyes held the look of someone who had been wandering through their own thoughts far longer than through the forest. They didn't speak at first, and I didn't ask. I simply opened the door wider and stepped aside, letting the warm air of the cabin wrap around them like a blanket that had been waiting. They sat over there, on that bench beneath the window. Yes, the one right behind you, and placed their hands on their knees like someone trying to remember what it felt like to rest. For a long while, they stared at the floorboards, following the grain of the wood as if tracing the outline of something lost. I made tea, the same blend you're drinking now, the one with pine needles and a hint of something earthy. They accepted it, with both hands trembling ever so slightly. And finally, after the fire cracked in a way that seemed to invite honesty, they spoke. They said, "I don't know where else to go." And those words, those words carried more weight than any storm outside. I told them they didn't need to be anywhere else, that the cabin didn't ask questions, that I didn't either. And slowly, they began to talk. They talked about the life they'd left behind, a life filled with noise, expectations, and days so full they barely recognized their own reflection when they passed a window. They spoke of disappointments tucked deep into the corners of their memory, the kind you don't look at directly because they sting even from the edges. They spoke of people they loved but didn't know how to reach anymore, of choices they made that felt right at the time, but heavy in hindsight. And I listened, not because I had answers, but because sometimes a person just needs a place where their voice doesn't echo back at them. Eventually, their words softened into silence. And in that silence I saw something shift, not dramatically, not suddenly, but subtly, like the way dawn stretches across a horizon before the sun dares to rise. They asked me, "How did you choose this life?" And I told them the truth. I didn't choose it. I just stopped running long enough for it to find me. And I said something I want you to hear as well. Sometimes the place you need is not a destination, but a pause. Their breath caught, not in pain, but in recognition. People forget how powerful pauses can be. They think stillness is emptiness, when in truth, stillness is where a person finally hears themselves. That traveler stayed here for 3 nights. 3 nights of rain, firelight, and long conversations broken by longer silences. And each morning I noticed their shoulders loosen, their breath deepen, their gaze shift from inward to outward. On the 4th day, they stood at the door. They held the frame for a moment as if grounding themselves in the wood and warmth, and said, "I'm not fixed, but I'm not lost anymore." And that was enough. They left with a small map I'd drawn on a scrap of paper, a simple one, showing only trees and stars and the direction of the valley. But more importantly, they left with a softened heart. And the forest? Oh, the forest welcomed them like it welcomes anyone who learns to walk without rushing. Every now and then, a letter finds its way to the cabin. Short messages, simple ones. I'm learning to breathe again. The sky looks bigger now. I didn't know I could feel quiet. And each time, I placed those letters on the shelf above the fire, not as reminders of sorrow, but as proof that even the most tired travelers can find their way back to themselves. And now, as you sit here tonight, with that same tired softness in your eyes, I want you to know, you are not the first soul to seek shelter in this cabin, and you will not be the last. But in this moment, this night belongs to you. The fire is steady, the rain is gentle, and you are slowly finding your own pause. Good. You're settled now. Your breath is softer, your shoulders have forgotten how to stay tense, and the night has become gentler than it was when you first stepped into this cabin. The fire is lower now, burning in those long, glowing lines that only appear when wood has softened into ember and memory. It doesn't crackle sharply anymore. It hums, a low, steady hum, the kind you feel more than hear. Outside, the rain has quieted into a shy drizzle, barely loud enough to claim the name rain, but still present enough to paint thin silver strokes on the window every few heartbeats. The forest is exhaling. You can almost hear it, that slow release of tension from every pine branch, every sleeping creature, every shadow that once stretched tall, now settling close to the earth. This is the hour of truth, not dramatic truth, not painful truth, but the quiet kind, the kind that only comes when a person is finally too tired to pretend and too safe to hide. And I can see it in you now, the softened gaze, the unhurried blinking, the kind of stillness that doesn't come from holding still, but from finally not needing to move. Come a little closer to the fire. Yes, just like that. Let the warmth touch your face. Let the shadows drape over your shoulders like a second blanket. You're wondering, maybe quietly, maybe without words, why a cabin keeper like me stays here, night after night, year after year, in a place where time slows down and the world feels smaller. Truth is, I don't stay because I'm hiding. I stay because I'm watching. Watching people arrive with their hearts in pieces and leave with those same pieces stitched just a little closer together. Watching the forest breathe in and out with the seasons. Watching how night teaches people what daylight never has the patience to explain. And every time someone finds this cabin, someone like you, I learn something new. I've learned that people don't break the way you think they do. They don't shatter suddenly. They erode quietly, little by little, under the weight of days that ask too much and nights that give too little. But I've also learned that people heal quietly too. That healing begins not with answers, not with solutions, but with a single, honest moment of rest. And tonight, this is your moment. You probably don't realize it yet, but parts of you have already begun to knit themselves back together. The parts that were trembling when you first arrived, they've grown calm. The parts that were loud have hushed, and the parts that were aching have softened into something almost tender. That's the magic of this place. Not the fire, not the walls, not even me. Though I do like to think my voice helps a little. No, the magic is that the forest, in all its ancient softness, knows how to cradle a tired heart. You are safe here, safer than you felt in a long time, I can tell. You're breathing. Listen to it. Slow, deep, easy. Even the forest is breathing with you now, matching your pace, slowing with you. You know, before you arrived, I added a new log to the fire. Not because the night was too cold, but because I sensed someone was coming who would need the extra warmth. And when you opened that door, when the rain brushed your shoulders and you stepped inside, with that gentleness hiding under exhaustion, I knew the cabin had been waiting for you specifically. Not every traveler finds this place, only those who need to. Only those whose hearts are tired enough to hear the forest whisper, "Come here, rest." And tonight, you listened. You know, before the night ends, before your eyes fall completely shut, there's something else I want to tell you. It's something I learned after years and years of watching people sit in that very seat, holding warm cups in their hands and heavy thoughts in their chests. It's this: you are not behind. You are not late. You are not failing. You are simply on your way. Paths like yours don't rush. They don't sprint. They don't blaze in straight lines. They meander. They wander. They pause. Just like the river outside this cabin that moves differently every season. Your life, too, has its own rhythm. And that rhythm is allowed to be slow. So rest now. Let the night carry you. Let the warmth hold you. The fire has dimmed to embers. The rain is a soft whisper. And your eyelids, I can see them growing heavy. Don't fight it. Just fall, gently, softly, into the place your heart has been longing for, long before you walked through that door. Lay your head down. Let the blanket rise with your breath. Let your thoughts blur into something warm and weightless. I'll stay a little longer. Keep watch over the fire. Keep listening to the rain. Keep the cabin safe while you drift. You are not alone tonight. You are not lost. You are simply resting in a place meant for you. Close your eyes and let the forest finish what I've started. Good night, traveler. Sleep deeply. Sleep safely. Sleep without worry. I'll be here when morning finds us.